Okay, today we're going to look at lesson 17A. So we have a few lessons between 17 and 18. So we're going to label them A, B, and C just because they're all kind of in the same section. And so we want to keep them all together. So our learning objective for today is I can solve systems using elimination. So we're still talking about systems of equations just like we were in the last lesson. But we're using elimination instead of substitution. And this method is best when both equations are in standard form. So they're both in ax plus by equals c form. Okay. Now, as usual, I'm going to be moving quicker through the video than I would if we were in person. So feel free to pause and rewind and rewatch whatever you need to. I do expect you to be taking notes, writing down the examples, trying them with me so that you can use this information on your Math Excel work. Okay? So before, when we were doing substitution, our goal was to substitute a variable. So we plugged in some stuff for another variable to get one of the variables to disappear. Well, today we're going to use elimination. And if you think about the word elimination, it comes from eliminate, get rid of something. So we're going to use addition and subtraction to eliminate one of the variables so we can solve for the other one. Okay, we only have one vocabulary term today. It's elimination method. And the elimination method says we're going to use the addition and subtraction properties of equality to eliminate a variable. So let me show you how those properties work. We're not going to write out the definition or the statement for those properties. I'm just going to show you how they work. And some of you might remember seeing this in Algebra 1, because if you had me, we looked at the same kind of examples and for the properties so you could see what you're doing. So if I give you 2 plus 3 equals 5, is that a true statement? Yes. What about 4 plus 5 equals 9? Is that a true statement? Yes. So the addition property of equality says that if we add two true statements, then our resulting statement should also be true. So I'm going to add these, and we're going to throw it back to when you used to do your addition top to bottom vertically. Okay, 2 plus 4 is 6, 3 plus 5 is 8, 5 plus 9 is 14. So is 6 plus 8 equals 14 a true statement? Yes. Okay, so that checks out. Now we're going to do the same thing with subtraction. So we already know that 2 plus 3 equals 5 is true, and 4 plus 5 equals 9 is true. So now we're going to subtract. But we're not just subtracting 4, we're subtracting that whole bottom equation. All right? So 2 minus 4 is negative 2. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. Negative 2 minus 2 equals negative 4. Is that a true statement? Yes. So if we add or subtract two true statements, then our resulting statement will also be true. We're going to use those properties to solve our systems today. Okay, here's the list of steps that you can follow to solve systems using elimination. Now, we're writing the steps down now, but we won't need them again. We won't need to write down the steps again for the next lesson. So just write them down now, and it'll take care of the rest of our elimination portions of section 3.2. So number 1, you make sure that the equations are lined up correctly. So you want the x's, y's, equal signs, and constants to be in line vertically. Then we need one of the variables, x or y, either one, to have the same coefficient. So you're not really worried about the signs at this step, but you need the x's to have the same number or the y's to have the same number, okay? The problems we're going to start out with are going to be ready. They're going to have something matching, okay? But later, we're going to have to decide if we can multiply one equation by something or both equations by something to get those variables matching, okay? But we'll talk more about those later. Step number 3, decide if you need to add or subtract. So we add when we have opposite signs. So for example, if I was to give you negative 3 and 3 equals 0. Well, and that's very hard to see. Let me get a different color. That's a little bit easier. So if we have negative 3 and 3, and we need those to equal 0, what operation would we need in the middle to make that statement work out? Right, we would need it plus. Okay, so that tells us that if you have opposite signs, you can add, and that will eliminate the variable that's with those numbers. All right, we subtract if we have the same sign. So if I give you 3 and 3, and I want that to equal 0, those both have the same sign. They're both positive. What needs to go in the middle to make that statement true? Subtract. Good. So that's kind of what we're going to look at. So when we find our variables that have matching coefficients, we decide if we need to add or subtract. Okay, so if they have opposite signs, we add, same, subtract. And that kind of goes together if you think about it, opposite, add, same, subtract. And so you do need to remember that, but you can kind of think of that to help you. Same, subtract, they sound alike, add, opposite, add, whatever. Number 4, you're going to add or subtract vertically and solve for the first variable. So you're going to, whichever operation you decide to use, you're going to do that vertically, and then you're going to solve for your first variable. After you add or subtract, it should be a one-step. You guys know how to solve a one-step equation. You just divide or multiply. In this case, you're going to be dividing, so super easy. Then step number 5, you're going to take that number that you got, or that value from step 4, you're going to plug it into one of your original equations and solve for the second variable. Now this solving, you might have to multiply, or you might have to combine like terms. It just kind of depends on what your problem looks like. But you will have to do just a little bit more to solve this one. But still, it's stuff that you know how to do already. Then last, you put your solution together. If you have an x equals a number and y equals a number, you make an ordered pair. If you get something like 0 equals 4, it's no solution, and 0 equals 0 is infinite solutions. Okay, here's example number 1. So first we make sure everything's lined up. Okay, and they are. X's, y's, equal signs, constants. Now, we're looking for a variable with matching coefficients. So the number in front of that variable needs to match. So for x, we've got a -1 and a 1, and y, we have a 7 and a 4. So which variable matches? X. So what I want you to do is I want you to make a box around your x's, okay? So you're going to look at what's in the box, okay, to figure out which operation, to see what's going to eliminate, all that. Look at what you've boxed, okay? So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is decide if we need to add or subtract. So let's look at our x's. We have a -1x and a +1x. Are those opposites or the same? Those are opposites, so we add. And we're going to add straight down. So -1x plus 1x cancels. Our x is eliminated. That's what we wanted. Okay, that tells us that we've done it correctly. -7y plus a -4y is -11y. And then 7 plus 4 is 11. Now, we're at step number 4 still. This is a one-step equation. We need to solve it. How can I do that? Divide by -11. And you get y equals -1. Now, you're halfway finished. So you've got your y. We need to find the x. So you're going to choose one of these original equations. You can pick whichever one you want to. It really doesn't matter. You can see which one seems easiest to you. You can always pick the top, always pick the bottom. You can mix it up. You should get the same answer regardless. Okay, I'm going to pick the bottom one, x minus 4y equals 4, just because it has one less negative number. Okay, and that's the only reason I picked it. All right, so y equals -1. So this is kind of like our substitution. You're going to take this -1 and plug it in for y. So we have x minus 4 times -1 equals 4. All right, now let's simplify. What's -4 times -1? 4. Okay, bring down your x and your 4. That's a one step. How do I solve it? Subtract 4, and we get x equals 0. So now we have an x, we have a y, and we need our final answer. So our final answer is 0, -1. Okay, here's example number 2. If you feel comfortable, you can pause the video and give it a try on your own and then check it with me. All right, so look at your x's and your y's. We have a 3 and a 10 and a 3 and a 3. So which variable has matching coefficients? It's y. So I want you to box your y's, and you have to include that operation that's in front because we need to pay attention to that. So we're just looking in the box. Do those have opposite signs or the same sign? Opposite, so opposite means we add. What's 3x plus a negative 10x? Negative 7x. Negative 3y plus 3y cancels out. And then equals, what's negative 15 plus 1? Negative 14. Now it's a one-step equation, so what do I do? Divide by negative 7, and I get x equals 2. All right. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to pick one of these equations, plug 2 in for x, and see what I get. So you can pick either one you want to. I'm going to pick the top one just because. It doesn't matter which one of the original equations you choose, you'll still get the same answer if you do your math correctly. So this time I have x equals 2, so 2 is going to go in for x. So 3 times 2 minus 3y equals negative 15. Now we can simplify. 3 times 2 is 6 minus 3y equals negative 15. Now it's a two-step. So what do I do? Subtract 6, and I get negative 3y equals negative 21. Divide by negative 3, and I get y equals 7. Okay, so now I have an x and I have a y. I can make my final answer. That's 2, 7. Okay, here's example number 3. 6x plus 2y equals 18. Negative x plus 2y equals negative 10. So once again, we're looking for the variable that has matching coefficients. We have 6 and 1, 2 and 2. So which variable am I going to box? The y's. All right, so we're just looking inside the box. Do those have opposite signs or the same sign? The same. So that means we're going to subtract. So we're going to subtract, and then I'm putting the whole bottom equation in parentheses because we need to make sure we subtract each item, okay, each term. So 6x minus a negative 1 is 7x. 2y minus 2y cancels. And then 18 minus a negative 10 is 28. Now, when you have minus a negative, we know minus a negative changes to addition. Okay, so that's something to keep track of. Or if you're not confident in doing that subtraction in your head, use a calculator. Okay, use a calculator to double check your simple math if you're not confident in it. Okay, now we have a one-step equation. So divide by 7, and we get x equals 4. All right, now choose one of your original equations, plug 4 in, and see what you get. You can choose either equation. I'm going to pick the top one just because it's all positive. And I know most of you would prefer to work with positives over negatives. All right, so x is equal to 4, so we're going to plug 4 in for x. So 6 times 4 plus 2y equals 18. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 2y equals 18. It's a two-step equation now. So subtract your 24, and you get 2y equals negative 6. Divide both sides by 2, and you get y equals negative 3. All right, so now you have an x, you have a y. Your final answer is 4, negative 3. All right, I hope you guys are realizing that the process is very, very, very similar each time. The only difference you might have is if you're adding or subtracting right now, okay? After that, everything is exactly the same. Okay, here's example number 4. All right, look at your coefficients and then box the variable that has matching ones. Am I going to box x or y? X. Okay, look inside the box. Do they have the same sign or opposite signs? Same. So same means we subtract. Remember, you're subtracting each term on the bottom. All right, 6x minus 6x cancels. Negative 9y minus a negative 4y. Remember that minus and negative changes to a plus. Okay, so negative 9y plus 4y is negative 5y. And then negative 18 minus 22 is negative 40. Divide both sides by negative 5. You get y equals 8. All right, now choose one of your equations. You can pick whichever one you want to. I'm going to choose the bottom just to mix things up. So 8 goes in for y. So 6x minus 4 times 8 equals 22. So 6x equals, or 6x minus 32 equals 22. You add 32 to both sides, and you get 6x equals 54. You divide both sides by 6, and you get x equals 9. Okay? So you have your x, you have your y, your final answer is 9, 8. Okay, here's example number 5. So we need to pick out our matching coefficients. And if you look at this one, you'll notice your x's match and your y's match. So just pick one, because something different is going to work out with this one. So I could box the x's, I could box the y's. Either way, do they have the opposite signs or same? Opposite. So we're going to add. What happens when we add 7x and negative 7x? Cancels. What about negative 9y and positive 9y? Cancels. So what's left? 0. What's 4 plus 4? 8. What kind of solution is that? No solution. Okay, remember, you can't leave this as your answer. You need to actually write it out, or you could say just NS in Math Excel. It has it typed out because it's multiple choice. But if you were doing it by hand, either of those would work. Okay, here's one last example for us. And this one is very similar to number 5. You notice these match, your y's match, okay? And those have opposite signs, so we're going to add. What happens to negative 3x and 3x? Cancels. 2y, negative 2y, cancels. What's left on that side? 0. What's 12 plus a negative 12? 0. So what kind of solution is 0 equals 0? It's infinite. So you can say infinite solutions, or you can abbreviate IS. All right, so as usual, use these notes and examples to help you with your Math Excel work. If you have questions, please let me know. Hit the Ask My Instructor button, send me an email, talk to me in the Google Meet, whatever you need to do. But have a great day.